Last but certainly not least, we have Callie that will be presenting on her group's work with mutual empathy.
Hi, everyone. I'm Callie Stiles, and today I'll be presenting on some innovative financing solutions to conserve the Amazon rainforest, and specifically its flying rivers. Here's a look at the incredible team behind this work with Maria Gray leading us as our faculty advisor. On today's journey through the Amazon, I will be introducing our client and the problem we were asked to solve, how we approach this work, our proposed solution, and finally, our recommended implementation plan. And yes, this is a real picture of our team on the ground in the Amazon rainforest. So our client, in collaboration with Mutual Empathy, is Airios Foundation. They are on a mission to save the last great flying river of the Amazon by directing private capital to the indigenous communities on the ground. They are partnering with the North Amazon Alliance that shares a very similar mission to this work. So at this point, you might be wondering, what are the flying rivers? So this term was popularized in the early 2000s to describe the massive water vapor streams that the Amazon rainforest creates. So every day in the Amazon, about 20 billion tons of water is pumped up from the forest to the atmosphere. They create these massive aerial streams, and then they transport rainfall across thousands and thousands of miles in South America. And while this term, flying rivers, predominantly does refer to the Amazon, it's next to the Congo Basin and Southeast Asia rainforests that also have very similar flying rivers and play a really critical role in rainforest patterns, regulating climate, and ultimately making Earth as we know it livable. Yet, despite, there's a bit of an issue going on in the Amazon, and it's called deforestation. So we have seen about 15% of the forest gone, which has affected 50% less carbon absorption in a warming world and reduced rainfall by 30% since the 1980s. This is a really big deal and really critical for our food and our water security and ultimately the world economy with all the ecosystem benefits that the Amazon provides. And despite the scale of the funding, despite the scale of the threat, the funding is not there. So for every dollar invested in protecting nature, $33 is spent destroying it. $7 trillion goes to activities like mining and oil and gas and these nature negative activities, while only $220 billion, that's with a B, goes to funding nature positive activities like conservation and reforestation. Why is this? Nature typically has longer timelines. That doesn't match investor priorities. Nature is typically harder to measure, and it doesn't typically have a clear revenue stream either. So, sorry, lost my train of thought for a second. Oh, the other issue is nature's benefits are public goods, and the markets are really great at actually measuring what they can own, but nature benefits everyone, so who actually pays for that is a great question. So we were asked, what would it take to mobilize and channel capital at scale to the most impactful efforts that exist on the ground today? The answer lies in traditional ecological knowledge, which is a cumulative body of multi-generational knowledge, practices, and beliefs with indigenous communities and other local communities around the world. You can think of it as this detailed and intimate knowledge of the ecosystems, everything from the plants and the animals and natural phenomena that then demonstrate, well, how do you actually live? How do you hunt and fish and extract timber from the forest and medicine from the forest? These communities do this all while living in harmony with the environment. And I mean true harmony. Studies have shown that indigenous communities make up 5% of the Earth's surface, yet hold 80% of our global biodiversity. Our client, Airios Foundation, came to Columbia University with 3 key questions. How can we mobilize capital at the scale needed to save the flying rivers? Can impact be measured in a way that is credible to investors and meaningful to communities? And how do we bring indigenous peoples from the sidelines to the heart of the strategy? We did extensive research and case studies across tech literature and finance conservation. We interviewed 30 plus experts from ecologists to policy actors, and probably the most adventurous part of the trip was a week-long trip in the Columbia Amazon, where we met with 4 indigenous communities and talked to them on the ground. So this is our proposal. We are proposing complementary blended financing mechanisms. We have a donor-advised fund, which I'll reference as a DAF on the left, to fund long-term strategic priorities. That's also going to provide catalytic capital to the environmental impact bond, which will help mobilize private investors to fund near-term priorities. So here's how the DAF will work. Donors, individuals, corporations, they'll provide capital to the Flying River staff, and then they'll get that tax deduction in return. That capital is going to go to the NGOs like the North Amazon Alliance and Gaia Amazonas, which is our anchor partner in this fund. And indigenous perspectives and indigenous people are going to sit at that governing body. So they're going to be the ones saying this capital should go to these most urgent and impactful efforts on the ground today. And unique to our DAF structure is that we have transparent impact reporting back to those donors who provided that capital, and a payout rate at around 25% every year, which is much higher than the industry standard, around 10. We've also designed this environmental impact bond, which is going to be $50 million in capital over a 5-year term. So it starts on the left here, where investors will provide their capital, everything from tranches A to C, depending on risk return priorities. So senior investors will get paid first in the capital structure. That money will go into a special purpose vehicle that's going to be implemented and managed by our client. Then that goes straight to our anchor partner, which is Gaia Amazonas, and then that goes to the indigenous governments and communities who, again, decide where that capital is going on the ground. Then we have some predefined impact metrics that are going to be, again, defined upfront and then independently audited and paid out by, the bond will be paid out by an outcome financier, so which will go back to the investors at the end of the day with a minimum principal guarantee. To give you an example of an outcome financier, our client has already seen early interest from the city of Bogota and the Dutch government, who are willing to pay for the results. So they're willing to pay for this positive impact and ensure that the investors in tranche A and B are going to get their money back at the end of the day. So now capital allocators can invest in nature, helping to close the funding gap. That's the goal. So what determines that bond payout, those coupons? First, you have indigenous stewardship. So this is where land rights, governance, knowledge transfer, these are all preconditions to issuing the actual bond, but they're not going to trigger the bond payment. Forest integrity, such as annual deforestation rate, is going to drive that payment. So the forests have to stay intact for the investors to get their coupon back. And then the flying rivers will validate that this is actually working. So metrics such as stable isotopes, super advanced tools where you can actually determine, is water vapor coming from the forest or the ocean? That exists out there, and we will use these metrics to measure on the ground, is this working? Are the forests actually helping to preserve the flying rivers? And so this will help validate that the bond is doing what we are seeking out what to do. Okay, so implementation roadmap. This is what it looks like for the 5 years. In year one, we would establish the vehicles. This will be all co-designed with the Indigenous communities when it comes to the indicators in the beginning, and the vehicle will be established with the outcome financier and the partners. So all the pieces will start coming together in year one. In year two, we'll start to deploy that capital, and in year 3 and 4, we'll start to scale. We'll also start to pay out coupons as we validate those metrics. In year 5, this is when the full principal payout, so the outcome financier pays out the principal, we close the bond. But after year 5, this is where the scale is really important. There's going to be that option to reissue the bond and keep expanding across additional communities as well as the same Indigenous communities on the ground that we were working with. So you might be wondering at this point, well, okay, what is the funding actually going to be used for? Land rights is number one. To give you a quick example, so Gaia Amazonas, there was a lot of mining pressure and deforestation pressure that came into Colombia, and Gaia worked with Indigenous communities on the ground, as well as the national government of Colombia, to establish something called the Jayopi-Apaporis National Park. It's about a 1 million hectare protected park, which is about the size of Connecticut, all managed, owned by Indigenous communities, and managed using their traditional knowledge. So giving them land rights and making sure that they have legitimate governance in the eyes of a government like Colombia is something that Gaia can help do. Life plans is number 2. So think of this as like the roadmap. Like just they're able to live in harmony with this environment, not by accident. Like they have deep knowledge and expertise. They know what to do because of things like what they call life plans. It's a roadmap that provides all of this knowledge, how to live in harmony, and that has to be established, supported, and transferred. And some of that will, it needs some funding, right? Monitoring and defense, so making sure that the forest actually stays healthy is really important, using like satellite, drones, remote sensing, so providing them the tools that we have in order to make sure that the forest stays standing. And then financial sustainability. So think of this as Indigenous-led ecotourism. It could be the harvesting and selling of non-timber forest products like Brazil nuts or acai. Communities could use this is where the bond funding is going to help. It's going to help them continue on financially in the future, so they're not necessarily relying on this bond funding in perpetuity. Okay, so in closing, we have an opportunity to value nature the right way, and we believe that we created a model and a path forward to doing this. It's one that's backed in stewardship, it's built on science, it's built on top of the latest monitoring and reporting frameworks that we have, and it's meant to hopefully catalyze money into this community and with the community. So in conclusion, let's keep the rivers fine.
First of all, beautiful presentation. Second of all, as someone who used to work for a nonprofit that was dependent upon donor funds, how do you, I want to word this the right way, balance donor interest with Indigenous perspective? So let's say, for example, when you're showing what the funds are used for, let's say there's a corporate donor who wants the funds to be used for the defense part, but the Indigenous perspective was, let's invest more into life plans. How does the DAF balance that?
That's a great question. Ultimately, the main component of the DAF is it's going to be based on where the Indigenous communities think the most urgent and impactful programs or activities should be supported on the ground today. and making sure that they have a voice, they have a seat at the table, a place in the boardroom to communicate that effectively to the donors. So literally, it could be like pitching, hey, we need this capital for XYZ in our community, and this is why. And then I would imagine it's up to the donors to decide whether or not they are comfortable supporting in that. But the whole idea is like we should give a lot of trust and autonomy to these communities to make sure that they're able to move forward with the activities they feel are ultimately going to conserve the Amazon rainforest for the long term. Thank you for your question.
Thank you for a really great presentation. My question is also kind of focused on the allocation of capital and the role that the indigenous communities are going to play in terms of management and operating those projects. Have you determined any, specific pilot or sample projects and looked at potential outcomes, right, for success that would determine the payout or, use of funds?
Yeah, we would definitely start with a pilot community. So we have a couple in mind right now per Gaia Amazonas specific recommendations where they're established indigenous territorial entities that exist and that Gaia has a really strong relationship with going forward. So we would start with a pilot, and then this is, right now it's a bit of a proof of concept, right? This bond hasn't actually deployed. So there's gonna be a lot of learnings and feedback loops between the communities and back to the investors and the outcome financiers and everything else along the way.